Welcome back to the line change. In this video, we're going to be talking about one Kiefer Sherwood. After the game last night against Utah, Sherwood had a fiery answer when he was asked about the Dickinson hit on Chytil. We're going to look at a tweet from Brendan Batchelor, and it goes on to read, and this is an exact quote from Sherwood himself, basically saying, "It's back-to-back games that guys are taking liberties on our guys. Dickinson is going to have to answer the bell next year because I know we don't play them again, but that was a dirty hit, unnecessary, 6-2, and then he doesn't have the whatever to step on the ice afterwards." And then it goes on to say, "Forward asked him, it is what it is. We'll get him next year." So that is a tweet from Brendan Batchelor quoting Kiefer Sherwood. We're also going to look at an article that dives a little more into this that also features that exact same quote, but we're not going to reread the quote, but we're going to go over this article that I will link in the description down below. This article starts off by saying, "In what was an absolute blowout of a game with the Vancouver Canucks defeating the Chicago Blackhawks 6-2, a scary incident in the dying seconds of the third period got all the attention. Chytil immediately fell to the ice in pain, eventually leaving the game with what was later confirmed as another concussion in Chytil's long list of career head injuries." The article goes on to talk about, as I mentioned, Sherwood essentially calling out Jason Dickinson after the NHL decided not to suspend him. The article continues here. "Although an egregious and completely unnecessary hit, the NHL's Department of Player Safety decided that it was not warranted of any supplemental discipline when many believed a suspension or at least a fine was going to be a clear-cut decision." It goes on to show a tweet from Rick Dhaliwal, who mentioned on Sunday morning that there was nothing coming from the Department of Player Safety regarding the game the night before, for those asking about the Jason Dickinson hit on Filip Chytil in Vancouver. And then the article once again continues, "Amid the lack of response from the league, power forward Kiefer Sherwood called out Jason Dickinson with a threat for the next time they play, for the next time," there's a little spelling error in this article, "as he is going to have to answer for his actions against Chytil." It goes on to quote that quote that we read earlier from Sherwood. It later says, "Sherwood was fuming in the interview, more upset that Dickinson did not even step foot on the ice after the hit for the Canucks to try and even the score. In the unwritten rules of hockey, if you injure a player on the opposing team, you have to answer the bell if they challenge you. But for Dickinson to not even give them a chance is pretty gutless. But like Sherwood said, they will make sure to get him next time they meet." So very interesting to hear Sherwood stand up for Filip Chytil. Obviously, as you can tell from the article, Dickinson never ended up having another shift after that hit. And by no means am I saying that he was ducking the Canucks, knowing that he was going to be targeted. You have to also keep in mind that Dickinson is a third-line center. So he plays on the third line. So perhaps in the final minutes of the game, the Blackhawks only had their first and or maybe second line out on the ice during that time period. So maybe that was just it for him. Obviously, you can also question whether or not Chicago themselves purposely made sure he was not on the ice again, because they probably knew he was going to be targeted. And then as soon as he stepped foot onto the ice, someone was going to go after him, and they did not want that to happen. So there's that angle as well. However, I do like the fire coming from Sherwood. Everyone knows Sherwood has that toughness. We've seen the incredible run he's had since signing with the Canucks. He's leading the league in hits by a large margin. The guy lays the body every single night. We've seen him get into a few fights. Everyone knows about him having that extra glove underneath his hockey gloves that he has to take before he gets into a fight because he has, I believe, some sort of skin condition on his hands. So he has an extra pair of gloves underneath his hockey gloves. And he always has to take those off whenever he gets into a fight, which we saw actually, I believe it was a few games ago, where he got into a scrap with, I forget who exactly. Let me know in the comment section down below if you do remember who he ended up fighting, as I can't remember it off the top of my head. But I do like this fire, as I mentioned, from Sherwood. Obviously, between now and the start of next season is going to be quite some time, and perhaps this will blow over. But hey, if Sherwood says you're a marked man, Jason Dickinson, then I think Sherwood's going to do something the next time Canucks play Chicago, whether that's in Vancouver. In Chicago, it's not going to matter. That first meeting between these two teams, because of what Sherwood said, it's going to have eyeballs. So once the schedule for next season comes out, people are going to be looking for that first game against Chicago, and they're going to be circling it on their calendar. I know I will, because, I mean, not just for that particular reason. I always like watching the Canucks play Chicago because of Connor Bedard. I always like watching Bedard play. So I'll have it circled for that reason, but this as well, as I'd like to see Sherwood go after Jason Dickinson. Maybe Forbort will go after him if he ends up re-signing with the Vancouver Canucks. But I thought this was an interesting tweet from Batch and interesting words from Sherwood, acknowledging the fact that in the past couple games, 2 of their players have been injured, and due to uncalled for shots to the head. Obviously, in the game against Utah, you saw a little bit of physicality between the two teams, especially after the whistle went. There was a lot of pushing and shoving. Clearly, the Canucks were frustrated with the fact that it happened 2 games in a row, and maybe, who knows, maybe they've seen what we've been saying online on how this team isn't tough enough, and maybe they wanted to show a little spirit, a little bit of fight, stand up for one another. But that's going to do it for this video. I wanted to go over this and just talk about Sherwood day by day, game by game. Sherwood is becoming one of my favorite Canucks. I just love his tenacity and how he doesn't put up with shit, and reminds me a lot of, I think I mentioned Matt Cook in a video or a couple of videos ago, how he was in attendance. Sherwood kind of reminds me of Matt Cook as well. So that's going to do it for this video. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you're not subscribed to The Line Change, go ahead and subscribe. What are you waiting for? Stay up to date on all things Vancouver Canucks right here on The Line Change. If you hit that little bell, you get notified every single time we upload a new video. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms. They are listed in the description down below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.